Okay, we can get started now. I think we got everybody, all our presenters are here. Good evening and welcome to the induction of the 2013 Hall of Fame class here at Mount St. Mary College. I'm Dan Toomey. I'm the Director of Athletics here. I've been here in some capacity for 19 years now. I was lucky enough to see all of these players, coaches, playing coach, and what an outstanding class this really is. We have all different types here. We have, whether it was that silky smooth jumper of Jamie Bruzi, the athletic ability and tenacity of Melissa Angelo that led her to star in 2 sports. What a pleasure it was to watch Coach Lou Arana have the huge impact he did on his student athletes and the direction that he gave them both on and off the field. We had the pitching and hitting prowess of Matt Dubinsky and the wonderful transition he made to being a very successful head baseball coach. For men's basketball, it was that cat-like quickness and creativity of Craig Newton that enabled him to become our all-time assist leader while still managing to score almost 1,300 points. And the next inductee was a recipient of a lot of those assists. Tom Fuller, deadly accurate shooter from long range and a real prolific scorer. Tom and Craig led them out to our first ever NCAA tournament bid, and I think it's particularly nice that they will remain bonded together going into the Hall of Fame in the same class. It was a privilege and a joy to watch them all perform and compete. Today they will have the well-deserved honor of being inducted into our Hall of Fame. Each inductee has chosen someone that they felt made a big impact on their lives to introduce them here tonight. They will be our presenters. I commend these presenters on the positive influence that they had on these great individuals. I want to say also that after we have a photographer here, after the ceremony is over, he'll take time to take all the family shots you want up here, one after the other. Everybody come up, individual shots, family shots. Nihal is great, and he will do that. All right, before we get to the presentations, I want to say a few words about our next speaker, the president of the college, Father Kevin Mackin, and what he has done for the college and for Mount St. Mary Athletics. For those of you who don't know, Father will be retiring at the end of the year. I want to thank him for his great vision for the college and his support of athletics. Just a couple of things that Father has done since he's been here. He's had some wonderful additions to the campus, but for athletic facilities, we have a new turf field, soccer, lacrosse, intramurals. We have tennis courts. We have a new baseball field. We have a new softball field. And he was also instrumental in this, the Hall of Fame. All of these things are great sources of pride for all our students and our student athletes. Father also expanded the department with the addition of several new teams to our intercollegiate structure. Men's and women's cross country, indoor track, outdoor track, men's and women's lacrosse, golf, and next year, cheerleading. These additions, along with our new fields, has been a tremendous windfall to our recruiting. At a time when many private institutions are struggling with enrollment issues, Mount St. Mary College has approximately 140 more student athletes than before Father arrived. The vast majority of these students would not be here if it was not for Father's vision. This is certainly a godsend to the college in this tough economic climate. Father also helped with the efficiency of recruiting by bringing in several new full-time coaches and paid assistants. This has allowed us to be This has allowed for more time in recruiting and for recruiting better athletes to our programs. Through the hard work and diligence of these coaches, the last 3 years, the athletic department has brought in 25% of the freshman enrollment. That is just an outstanding job. And again, made possible by the efforts and vision of Father Kevin. But I just talked about a lot of numbers. They're very necessary numbers for the college. The administration, I'm sure, will tell you that. But they're numbers nonetheless. Father Kevin has meant a lot more to the college than numbers. The things that I think the student athletes, students, coaches, and staff will miss the most is his accessibility and his friendship. Since the day Father got here, the students are number one. He's concerned about them, makes sure all their needs are met. As he says, we are here for the students. And of course, he is right. Any student can go to him at any time, and he will listen. Often he goes to them. How are you doing? How's it going? Just making sure that everything's okay. This accessibility that he gives them is greatly valued by the student body. For coaches and athletes, his attendance at the home games is a given. Before the game, he's always right up to the coach, to the athletes, talking to them, encouraging them, and pushing them on. And if for some reason, through his busy schedule, he does not get there in time, doesn't matter. He goes right in the dugout, right with the coaches. He's there, he's talking, he's in there. I heard today, I thought he was coaching third base for a while at the baseball game. We had too many events. One time I was saying, I think he wants to get in the game. Call a compliance officer and see if he has any eligibility left. But the athletes love him for it, and so do the coaches. He's hands-on, and it's great. After he's done with the coaches in the game, he's always in with the students, all the student body, joking around with them, generally having a good time, making them feel good about themselves. And this is what we're gonna miss, that support and that friendship. And for me, I will have to say his father's sense of humor. For those of you that don't know us, Father and I are basically two guys originally from Brooklyn that like to kid around and bust on each other. We have shared many a laugh, and I'm gonna miss that. I'm gonna have to do it by phone now, Father. These are just a few more, there are just a few more things I want to congratulate Father on. I understand that it's his 50th anniversary this year of his ordination into priesthood, and today is Father Mackin's birthday. 55, Father? 55? I think you were ordained when you were 5, right? So we wish Father well on his retirement, congratulate him on his milestones, and thank him sincerely for all he has done for Mount St. Mary College. Let's have a big round of applause for Father Kevin Mackin.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks very much. Thank you, Dan, for inducting me into the Hall of Fame, but I don't see my name on that plaque. Good evening and welcome one and all to this celebration in which we salute our newest inductees into the Mount St. Mary College Hall of Fame. And as we begin, Dan said, ask them to kneel, but I won't ask you to kneel. Let us bow our heads in prayer to thank God for our many blessings. Bless us, O Lord, as we gather together this evening, teams within a team, to celebrate the gifts of Mount St. Mary College life. We thank you, God, for the student athletes and coach whom we honor. As we participate in a learning community that cultivates the convergence of head, heart, and hand, let us strive to promote integrity in all we do. Lord, thank you for the opportunities you give us to appreciate our abilities, to treasure our lasting friendships, and to share our blessings with others. God bless the nights on the courts and in the fields and in the community. Amen, so be it. And let's hear a resounding amen. Amen. I won't sing it though. Anyway, it's no secret that athletics, recreation, and physical education are strong assets for students as they work together toward their college degrees. The brightest lights at universities since the Middle Ages have studied the interrelatedness of mind, body, and spirit. And I truly believe that mental and spiritual and physical fitness are interrelated and make for a healthy human being. And we have programs and facilities to support mind and heart and spirit. Our academic programs and labs and residences, an historic chapel on top of the hill, and hope you all have a chance to see our new library as well as residence hall space on the very top of the hill there, and numerous activities including, as Dan said, 21 sports teams as of fall 2014. This evening, Dan Toomey will induct the newest Mount St. Mary College Hall of Famers, including graduates from 1996 to 2005, plus a coach's lifetime achievement. These inductees, for me, possessed 7 powerful transformational attitudes and behaviors. They were constructive, they were positive, prompt, outcome-focused, reflective, pragmatic, and relentlessly seeking positive incremental personal development in their own lives. And that's why we welcome them this evening into the Hall of Fame. Dan Toomey has worked with all of them during his 19 years here at Mount St. Mary College, and Dan can praise with firsthand knowledge and experience. And I'm going to ask these different honorees to please stand as I recognize them. Melissa Angelo Tackaberry, class of 2005. A two-sport star with the record for runs scored in softball and ranked third nationally in volleyball. She is now a mathematics teacher. Coach Lou Arana, honored for his semi-pro baseball career and college coaching. He's retired from IBM. Jamie Bruzi Murphy, class of 1996. Jamie. Who finished as women's basketball program leader in career points and still ranks second all time. She's a registered nurse. Matt Dubinsky, class of 1997, who made huge contributions on the baseball team, including throwing a 5-hit shutout at Shea Stadium. He is now a student athlete recruiter. Tom Fuller, class of 1997. There's Tom, right. Shooting guard for our first Skyline Championship team in men's basketball, finished with a record of 1,395 points. He's in client services for Trio Solutions Healthcare. He and Craig Newton were skilled teammates, Tom shooting and Craig assisting. Great combo. And finally, Craig Newton, class of 1998, who holds every assist record in men's basketball, including 499 career assists, the most in our program history. He works as an account executive for UPS. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a thunderous round of applause for our new honorees. And thank you. Thank you for everything that you do on behalf of the college. And with that, I'm going to turn the podium back over to Dan Toomey for the recognition of the plaque as well as the reading of the citations. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Father. Okay, we'll get right into the presentations right now. I'll bring up my first presenter, Mike Strano, who's going to do Melissa Angelo and Tackaberry.
Thank you. About a year ago, I was asked to nominate an athlete for a newly instated Hall of Fame. Without a second thought, the first name that came to mind was Melissa Angelo and Tackaberry. To this day, there's no athlete I have coached who better fits what it means to be a knight here at Mount St. Mary College. Melissa was a junior when I took over the volleyball program here at the Mount. As a new coach, there was a period of getting to know the team and them getting to know me. Fortunately for me, Melissa made that easy. She was a natural leader on the team and knew how to manage all the personalities on the team. On the court, she led by example by always playing hard and giving maximum effort on every play. Because of this, she was an easy pick for team captain her senior year. She then had a senior year that no other player has come close to. She was the defensive player of the year and was ranked third in the nation for digs per game, averaging over 8 digs per game. Her name appears in the volleyball record book 6 times, most digs in a 3-set match, a 4-set match, and a 5-set match. She has the most digs in a single season, still to this day, and most digs per set in a season, and the most digs in a career. If that was not enough, it turns out volleyball was not her best sport. In fact, she had never even played volleyball before college. She played volleyball in order to stay in shape for softball, where once again, she had an incredible career. She was a 2-time All-Skyline student athlete and holds the record for most runs scored with 100 in one season. In 2004, she ranked 25th in the nation with a .472 batting average and 28th in the nation with .4 doubles per game. While being a 2-sport athlete, Melissa earned her bachelor's degree in teaching math and was an active member of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. Melissa was successful on the court, on the field, and in the classroom. She now teaches at Madison Central Schools and lives with her husband, Jay, also a former Knight baseball player, and their 3 children, Grace, Jay, and Carter. It is with the utmost honor and pleasure that I introduce Melissa Angelo and Tackaberry to Mount St. Mary College Hall of Fame.
Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking the committee for recognizing my accomplishments as an athlete and allowing me to earn the honor of induction to Mount St. Mary's Hall of Fame. In addition, I would like to thank my family, friends, teammates, coaches, and last but not least, my husband, who came to most of my volleyball games, and once we started wearing spandex, he came to even more. Who drove in the wrong direction on the throughway for who knows how long to watch me play. He will never live that one down. I thank athletics for keeping us here during the first weekend when mostly all of the freshmen go home or we may not have ever met. In high school, I played soccer. We didn't have volleyball. The only exposure I had to volleyball was in gym class. Sorry, PE teachers. And beach volleyball. But when I came to college and found out that there was a volleyball team, I decided to give it a try. I felt like I was a pretty quick learner and athletic enough to pick it up. I had awesome teammates who were willing to teach me what they knew and have the patience to teach someone who didn't know the sport that they had played for so long. Also to the coach who gave me my set of knee pads. I didn't know I needed them for volleyball, and for not cutting me my freshman year. Then to Coach Strano and Frank, who came along, and I learned so much from them I can't even begin to start the list. While mostly Frank just hit the ball at me. The libero was introduced to the sport my junior year, and that became my position. It's not like I could reach the top of the net or anything. So whenever anyone would ask, I would simply say, the big girls hit the ball at me, so it's defense. And they would say, okay, that makes sense. Softball has always been a sport that I played, loved playing, and hope to play old lady softball when I get the chance. Coach Janice had a huge impact on my hitting skills and my national rankings. Before her, no one had ever broke down the swing for me. They would just say, go hit. The mechanics of the swing and the repetitive nature of doing a skill just clicked for me. So thank you. In addition, her confidence in me and my ability to make things happen in the game pushed me to become a better player. Each game, my goal was to do better than I had done previously. What athlete doesn't want to achieve that? Both volleyball and softball gave me the ability and the knowledge to become a coach. I hope that I have given my athletes the same ability as my coaches gave me without even knowing. To my parents who played sports with us, pushed me to do my best, always making sure that I enjoyed the sports I was playing, and for carting me around to all my practices and games. For never letting me win, but I bet I could beat you now, Dad. And pushing my competitive drive at an early age. Thank you for always being there. To my sister and brother, I'm sorry you had to come to so many games. To my husband, Jay, who will always hear, I hope our kids take after my athletic ability. You may never get the credit that you deserve for being an athlete, so here's your credit. I apologize now for the never-ending comments from your father that you may receive. Let's not be too hard on him, Robert. My high school coach always said there's no I in team, and I've always played that way in my mind. Yes, I did well, and I'm proud of my accomplishments, but I would not have been here or have been as successful without my teammates, coaches, and supporters throughout the years. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Move this along. Name's Mike Pagan. I had the privilege of being here in 95, 6, 7. I was still working out here, so I saw Craig play and Tom play and Jamie play, and of course I played with Matt, and it was just a great time to be here. And I was looking at some of the numbers, and the Craig Newton 499 assists bugs me, because I'm a stat guy, and when I see like somebody could have fudged that book one to give him 500. So congratulations though on a great career. And yeah, exactly, Tom. That's great. Tom missed the shot, right? But I had the privilege to play at 16. I was playing in the American Legion team in Newburgh, and Coach Lou Arana was around, and he was coaching me. And then I came here to play baseball, and Tom McTammany and Mike McGuire were here. But then Lou always seemed to find a way to come around baseball and help and coach and be a part of it. And he had a very big influence on my life spiritually too. Lou was a man of faith, and he helped me in my journey of faith, and now I'm serving in ministry and doing things there. And so I really want to publicly thank you for that influence that you've had. I called Lou last night at about 8:30, and I was like, well, I got to say something. You got to give me some information. Can you send me an email about yourself? And then he's like, you're calling me at 9 o'clock, and you don't even know what to say the night before. I don't have a computer. I don't have an email. And I'm thinking, is this guy standing in his kitchen with a phone attached to the wall? like who doesn't have an email address? So, but you know the one thing he said, I've been coaching for 6 decades, since '58, and I was like, wow, how many lives has he influenced? How many lives, how many guys has he touched that he's poured his heart into, that he's cared about? And if you know Lou, it's not just on the field. He cares about you often. He's checking on you, and he's calling you, or he's asking about you. And I just thought about the influence that he's had over this time. And so as we were getting together last year, deciding, I was on this committee of who can we elect for the Hall of Fame, and Matt's name came up, and Matt and I and Sosler were like, what about Coach Lou? I mean, we got to do something for him. And how much longer is he going to live? I mean, we got to do something before it's too late. But then, knowing Lou, I mean, he's going to be 20 more years and he'll still be here, because he's so stubborn and strong and just committed. And so, actually, they gave me a speech, so I guess I'm supposed to read this. But I just wanted to say it's a privilege to be a part of all those years he's coached, and to be a part of that, and to see how he's handled guys. And there's a few things that Lou has always brought to the field. He's always been committed to playing baseball the right way. I mean, he's a professional. He's played semi-pro. He's scouted for the White Sox, and he's approached the game one way, and that's the right way. That's hard all the time. When you weren't even on the field, you had to have your uniform on right, and it was business, and you had fun because you did it right. That's why he and I got along for the most part, most of the time, because I tried to approach the game the right way. And then if I was struggling, and another thing I love about Lou is that if you struggle, you know where you stand with him. You're not doing well right now because you broke up with that girl and now you're dating this one. And it's like, meanwhile, I'm hitting 420 and I'm not hitting 480, or he's getting on you. But he knows what your potential is, and he pushed you there. And so I appreciated that. And he would be honest with you. I mean, I remember I was trying to play professional baseball, and I'm 24 and I'm trying to sign, and he's telling me to quit because it's over. You got to grow up. You got to get a real job, and this is the reality. And then 2 days later, he's hitting me ground balls, trying to help me get to the next level, because we can have these disagreements and heart-to-hearts, and then he would support whatever you're doing. So I want to just thank you, Lou, and I love you, and I appreciate you, and everything that's on this paper is in this bulletin, so I'll let you guys read that, and let's listen to Lou speak. So let's thank you. Let's welcome him.
Well, this, excuse me, this isn't easy. Following Mike Pagana. Thanks a lot, Mike. Thank you so much for all the kind words. Mike's really a tough act to follow. I was hoping he might do my entire speech. Mike, you want to do my speech? No? Okay, all right. I'm really honored to be recognized by Mount St. Mary College for a Lifetime Achievement Award for past services to my community and 11 years dedicated to baseball at this great college. To tell you the truth, it's a bit overwhelming, humbling, and gratifying. I'm really speechless, and it would be easier talking to a group of ball players on an athletic field. My congratulations to the other inductees, whom many I've had some involvement with. Matt Dubinsky played for me and was outstanding here at Mount St. Mary College as a player and then a coach. I had the opportunity to mentor Matt for several years. Matt was my replacement upon retirement in 2001. In 2003, during the second season, Matt guided his team to the NCAA tournament and is ranked number 21 nationally. That was really a great job, Matt. Really wonderful. Thank you very much, Matt. This is an amazing reception with so many relatives, athletes, academia, religious, and friends in attendance. I am very grateful to each of you for being here. I would like to just introduce my guests. My former spouse, Elizabeth Berra, is here. My sons, Jeffrey and David. My brother-in-law and sister-in-law, Anthony Delamarco and his wife. Lorraine, his wife Lorraine. Dr. Tom Sarrell and his wife Kitty, who were asked to do the induction over here, or the presentation is with another group someplace around here. There they are, right there. Okay, thanks so much. Tom Gorton and his wife Paula, Bob Miller and his wife Barbara, Joe Bell and his wife Marissa, Willie Frazier and wife Janine, and Martha Hasbrook, widow of Jay Hasbrook. Jay was my longtime friend and coach here at Mount St. Mary College. Jay just passed away last October 2013. Thank you, my family and friends, for coming. I'd like to just say something, even though she's not here. I'd like to have my special thanks to Sister Ann Sakak, President Emeriti. Prior to knowing and meeting Sister Ann, I was walking and jogging the Newburgh Beacon Bridge and would at times pass two ladies walking. We would always have a good morning and hello greeting. I was unaware one of the ladies was the president of Mount St. Mary College. You know the old saying, be nice to everyone because you never know who your boss will be. It was a lesson I learned a long time ago. I enjoyed my 11 years coaching here, and I thank Sister for being so kind to me when I retired at the end of the 2001 baseball season. She really didn't want me to leave, but it was time. Thank you, Father Kevin. The first time I had the pleasure of meeting Father Kevin was at Delano Hitch Stadium and during one of the baseball games. And I'm sure Father got quite the charge when I said, it's nice to have a jock priest at the college. Right? That was our first conversation, and I think he enjoyed our chat. Father, I speak for myself and many others. You're going to really be missed here at Mount St. Mary College. Athletics really didn't come to life until your presence. God bless you, Father, and thank you for your service to the college, church, and our community. Bill Kaplan's not here, and I'd like to publicly thank him for his generosity to Mount St. Mary College and the greater Newburgh community. And I think everybody should thank Bill Kaplan when they see him. I've enjoyed playing baseball and coaching almost my entire life. Back in the 40s, baseball was the American pastime. As young men growing up, we didn't have the advantage of facilities, equipment, and training techniques that's available today. During those times, or as they say, back in the day, that's what the young people say, that was it back in the day, Coach. Little League didn't exist. If you wanted to play baseball, you had better get to the park each day after school and on Saturday. Sunday was a day for worship, and church was the priority of the day. There was no TV, there was no baseball draft, and no videotapes. If major leagues had any interest in you, baseball scouts would come around and invite you to a tryout. At age 14, I was a pretty decent catcher playing semi-pro baseball with many players that have returned from World War II. It was an opportunity for me to learn and develop my skills as a catcher. I would catch batting practice for several teams. I had the opportunity to catch Whitey Ford when I was a 15-year-old youngster while playing for the Shapiro Jewels, a very good semi-professional team. I was called Mickey at the time so as not to lose my amateur standing. There were no special clinics for developing skills like there is today. During my lifetime, I guesstimate that I've played or coached in over 3,000 games. Here at Mount St. Mary College from 1991 to 2001, a total of 371 games. And we won 236 of those games. I'm just going to tell a couple quick short stories. In the beginning, and that's what baseball was like here in the beginning, it was a real challenge because basketball was the sport. The first 3-4 years of baseball at this college was really a struggle. It was more like intramural baseball. During that time, Mount St. Mary always considered basketball as its sports program. At first, baseball used an old gym behind the Mother House. I believe today it would be behind Guzman Hall and the Dominican Center where that building was. The size was like 40 feet by 60 feet. There was no heat. There were lights hanging down from the ceiling. We would have to shovel snow many times to get into the building. Sometimes we even had to break a lock to be able to get in. It was really very cold in there. When our guys would have batting practice, they would hit balls through the particle ceiling. You remember that, Mike? Were you here then? It was a particle ceiling board, and every time the guys would hit the balls would go right through the ceiling. Practice was very, very quick. Well, the following season, we were able to use the Jewish Community Center, now called Hudson Hall. We used it for hitting and for our drills. In 1992, after the Kaplan Center was opened, we purchased an indoor batting cage and were allowed to use the Kaplan Center for hitting. At first, we had to take our shoes off in the lobby. Harry Steinway here? Is Harry here? Harry Steinway, I can say this, he's not here. Harry would always make sure that. Harry was the dean of students, and he would stand out here in the lobby and make sure that our guys took their sneakers off before they went into the gym, and then put clean ones on the gym when they were in the gym. After some time, we convinced Harry that our baseball players were good kids and finally gave in. The batting cage required 17 players to put up and take down. Each practice, we would time ourselves as a challenge putting the cage up. Our best time was approximately 20 minutes. We also had to place mats on the floor inside the cage. Well, finally we get an outdoor cage. I just gotta, if you guys want to pass this around, you can pass this around. We're gonna take a look at that. Southern County Community College offered us a batting cage. It was 6 feet in the grass field at their college, and there's a picture of that going around. It included flat tires, rusty bolts, and would require a flatbed truck to move it to the town of Newburgh garage for repair and painting. Well, 5 of us get a flatbed truck, a pickup truck, and we bring it back to the recreation center. The team had a good week at the rec center, scraping, sanding, painting, and putting it back together. Some of the New York City boys had no idea on how to use some of the tools. We had a lot of fun, and it was team building, and the picture's going around so you can see. You can see, Father, we were really kind of behind times here when I came, okay, you know. Cronomer Park was our home field and our drainage problem. The culvert pipes under the roadway would back up with debris, and water would overflow the stream onto the infield. We had to clean those pipes to render the field playable. Some boys in the drainage ditch would go into the drainage ditch, and there was John Lamandella from Staten Island. John was a little Italian boy, tough kid. And he would go into those culvert pipes, and he'd be up to his head and toe in mud, laughing and having a good time. As coaches, we thought we were doing a pretty good job character building. We were really proud of our players and what they went through. It was a great feeling to see the boys come together. I believe we were the beginning of good things that worked well for the baseball program at Mount St. Mary College. I'm going to talk about one game. The personnel involved are here. Matt Dubinsky was the third base coach, and Joe Bell, whom I forgot to introduce, plus Willie Frazier and his wife, Janine, thank you, Betty. Janine, and where's Joe? Where's Joe Bell? Joe Bell and his wife Marissa. Well, Matt Dubinsky was the third base coach and Joe Bell the batter. We're playing St. Joseph's College in order to advance to the Knickerbocker Conference Final. We're the home team. The score is 0-0. It's the 15th inning. Prior to this at-bat, Joe had 4 prior chances to win the game. Trevor Purcell had pitched 12 beautiful innings, allowing 2 hits. Jason Myers of Pine Bush completed the final 3 innings. We had the bases loaded. It's 0 outs. Joe is Casey at the bat. Big Joe, you know, mighty Casey at the bat. Well, Joe is Casey at the bat. 0 hits for the day, hitting over 400 for the season. Prior to the inning, Matt and I agreed if the situation were right, we would suicide squeeze. Well, Matt gives Joe the suicide bunt sign. Joe looks at Matt, and he's got that look of disbelief. Me? You're going to ask to bunt a 400 hitter? Well, Joe goes on and executes a perfect bunt. Mike Cooper, the runner on third base, scores, and we win the game 1-0. Joe looked like one of the little leaguers that hits a home run at Williamsport. He's jumping up and down. I don't even think he ever got to first base because he didn't really have to. The winning run came across the plate. Joe said, quote, "I had 4 chances to win the game, and then I did it on a bunt. Go figure," end quote. I will never forget that moment, and Joe is one of my guests today. Thanks, Joe, for that memory. Everyone is proud of Joe, as he is also one of New Windsor's finest and of this college as well. In wrapping up, I've been fortunate to have coached and played with some special people. Ryan Belf went with San Diego, Mike Pagano with the Rangers, Demal Brown with Kansas City, and Rob Bell with Cincinnati. Mike Gambino played for American Legion Baseball for me, went into the Red Sox organization. He's now the head coach at Boston College. Bill Short, young man I caught in high school, went with the New York Yankees. Bobby Early, another high school man I caught, he went on to the Brooklyn Dodgers. And Bobby Miller, my guest, Bobby's over here, went with the New York Giants. Willie Frazier back there, whom I forgot to introduce before, he's my guest. And Willie was with the California Angels and 3 or 4 other Major League Baseball teams. Willie is now advanced Major League scout. Tom Gorton, one of my great all-star softball players, he's also here. And I'm going to introduce just another special guest, Janine Frazier. Janine's sitting back there with Willie. She was first girl to play baseball on Doubleday Field while I was coaching. We were playing in Cooperstown during an American Legion tournament. She was my back girl and also a pitching coach for Willie. Eventually became her husband. Finally, I will end this. Over the years, I've received many letters of appreciation from players and students. It's meeting and working with people like each of you that have made my years so fulfilling. I just want to talk about 3 special Newburgh boys that I consider to be my heroes. They're all deceased, okay? Al Picascio. Al Picascio was a 4-star letterman in NFA. He went to West Point. When I was working down at West Point as a trainer, Al would come and talk with me every night. He was with the football team down here. And he was a plebe or a freshman. And Al didn't want to go to West Point. I told him to finish out the year. He did that. He then went on to Florida State on a football scholarship. Got hurt. He hurt his back. He came back. He went out for baseball, and he became an American All-American at Florida State. Al went on to become Chief of Physical Training Defensive Tactics at FBI's Quantico, Virginia headquarters, and then its National Academy program. He was killed in a helicopter crash on his way to Bosnia with 11 other members of the United Nations team. And they were going over to Bosnia to set up a police force. And Al was 57 years old when he died. Tommy Peterkin, young man, played shortstop for my American Legion team. He never got to play much. He was a substitute player, really great kid. He was a sharpshooter, went over to Vietnam. He was killed 4 days after he reached age 21. He was a great kid, special. This other boy, Jack Wolpe, probably the finest and best athlete I ever coached. Jack was born in Lithuania when it was occupied by the Nazis during World War II. His Jewish parents taken away to concentration camps. Baby Jack was passed off to a Christian couple who cared for him during that time. His parents survived and found Jack and came to the United States, settling in Newburgh, New York. Jack was the hardest working, most respectful player I ever coached. He would be killed during his last helicopter boarding in Vietnam on August 3rd, 1967. And that was my birthday, so I never forget that. He would be killed during that last helicopter boarding. He was 25 years old, and his remains were retrieved 3 decades later. After 34 years in 2001, Jack was laid to rest in Arlington National Cemetery. And these are some of the boys that left footprints on my heart, along with many other good and wonderful people. Once again, thank you for induction into the Mount St. Mary College Athletic Hall of Fame. Forever onward.
First, I'd like to congratulate all of the inductees, and in many ways I know we're here to honor them, and in some ways I see this as an honor for me. I mean, when Lou called us maybe 2 months ago and said, would we come and just be his guest, that to me is a tremendous honor. Just the friendship that we've shared, the many games that we've watched together over at Delano Hitch, and just conversations, baseball and not. And then it was only about, a month or so ago, I got a call from Jamie Bruzi, and she said, would you please be the person to introduce me at the Hall of Fame? And that too was a tremendous honor. So in so many ways, we're here to honor them, but it's a true honor to me. I can still remember it was like in 1992 when our coach Randy came to me and said, we're looking at this big girl from Notre Dame, and I really think she could turn our program around. And I heard that about 8 million times from Randy, and little did I know that 22 years later I'd be standing here, and that was that big girl that he brought to us. In so many ways, Jamie is, when she asked me to introduce her, I even said to her that she was one of my favorites. All of my students, I teach a lot of nursing students, and I was the academic advisor for the women's basketball team, and I truly referred to these girls as my girls. And they were. I mean, I follow them, I know them, and Jamie has honored me in so many ways. She came to my house to babysit my daughter, and she showed my daughter what it meant to do hard work, that it was cool to be goofy at times, that you could party and study and still do well. She achieved good grades, went on to be a nurse. She honored me by having me at her wedding, where I got to attend, and she makes me proud just when I can look in Facebook and see the family that she's raised, and just know that the Mount and even myself have just had a little bit of a piece of that. Just 2 stories. That another thing that just one of my remembrances, I mean, Mount St. Mary College was just starting to make a little niche as an athletic, quote unquote powerhouse, and our women's basketball team, even though we were the program, I guess, as Lou says, I mean, it doesn't mean that we were all that good at times. And we see things on TV when it comes to playing basketball, and there's those moments that look so special and stuff, and I recounted one with Jamie that to me was probably one of my most inspiring, athletic moments to really be a part of. And that was in 1996. The Mount was playing in their first postseason game against Montclair State, and we were down, and the time was running down the clock, and it was counting down, and we got the ball to Jamie in the corner. She did her typical turnaround jumper, buzzer went off, she fell on her butt, and the ball went through the hoop. And we had our very first postseason win. And it looked like, just like Lou was saying, with a little leaguer hitting that home run, the Mount exploded. And that still sticks out in my mind as probably one of my greatest achievements. Just another story we just recounted a little bit as we were standing here, and it's a commercial that I don't know what company it's for, but I'm going to sort of paraphrase it a little bit, where we some guy does something like eating berries, and then he gets sick, and then he gets in an ambulance, and then there's an accident, and all of these things can happen. Well, we had one of these. It was one of my wife and I went out for our anniversary. Jamie's babysitting our daughter. I come home, I go into the bathroom, and I look in the garbage pail, and I see a Little Mermaid Band-Aid. And I say to Jamie, "What, somebody get hurt?" And she goes, "Oh, no, that's all right. I cut my finger here trying to separate 2 frozen burritos." And I said, "Okay," and literally, I mean, this thing was 2 millimeters long. And we said, "Oh, okay, good." Well, it turned out Jamie hit a nerve. So now she had to have plastic surgery on this hand, and they got it around, and she missed a bunch of the season, so needless to say, Coach Ognevine was very pleased with me, but that was okay. And then we're getting into the January span where students come back and we're training, and Jamie had a little bit of a celebration because it was her 21st birthday, and she came back to heat up some soup and spilled boiling soup on the inside of her ankle. So now she has this burn on her ankle, which she then perceives that she can't play too much. Coach Ognevine convinces her that you can play, but rather than high tops, put on low tops so it's not touching the burn. Needless to say, Jamie gets out on the court and blows her ankle out and misses almost the entirety of that season. Now, with that said, I have the pleasure, and as Mike pointed out, there's some stats here, but some definitely could use some recounting. So even with missing a significant number of games, Jamie Bruzi Murphy was one of the most prolific scorers in Mount women's basketball history. She finished her career as the program leader in career points and still ranks second all-time with 1,590 points in her 4-year career. I still think this is a misprint here. She also ranks 4th all-time with rebounds. I don't know, that's with 2, with 640. She owns 7 program records, including most points in a single game, 37, December 11th, 1995 versus Centenary. Single season, 572, most points per game in a single season. 20.4 points, most points per game for her career, 16.9 field goals made in a single game, 18 on December 11th, 1995 versus Centenary, and field goals made in a single season, 252, and field goals made in her career, 713. Bruzi Murphy is a registered nurse working as a visiting nurse for Western Connecticut Health Network. She has been a floor nurse at Danbury Hospital for 13 years. She is married to her husband, Michael Murphy, who also graduated from the Mount in 1996. They have 2 sons, Liam Daniel and Braden Michael. Some of her proudest moments as a Knight are starting as a freshman, reaching the 1,000-point milestone, and breaking the all-time program scoring record. So with that, I'd like to introduce Jamie.
Mine is not going to be as long as Lou's, so. Mount St. Mary College has played such an important part of my life. I have to first start by thanking my parents for giving me the opportunity to even have the chance to go away to school. Not every person is given the same opportunities that I have been given. Even though Randy cannot be here today, I need to make sure I thank him. Without him coming to recruit me in high school at the St. Francis tournament back in 1991, I would never even heard of Mount St. Mary's or even thought of coming here. His recruiting efforts made me feel very important that I would not just be another face in the crowd. I even got a birthday card sent to my high school homeroom. His persistence made me feel like I wanted to come and tour the school. Once I saw it, I fell in love. The campus was so beautiful, and they had a great nursing program. The Kaplan Center was the icing on the cake. Getting to see this gym being built and knowing that I'd be the first team to play here was just awesome. Dr. Serra was more than my academic advisor, he was also a good friend. He pushed me to succeed on and off the court, opened up his house as a quiet place to study, and quizzed me on long road trips, and always tried to keep me in line. I would also like to thank the entire coaching staff throughout my 4 years here, including Coach Toomey. They all worked so hard to help me improve my game. Being part of a team helped me with the transition of going away to college. I immediately felt like I was part of a family. The best memories for me were not the individual wins or losses, but the time spent together as a team. Going to Puerto Rico my freshman year, the many road trips, and the fun times we had at intercessions. I have had many teammates and cheerleaders to support me through the years. Thank you for coming today. It means a lot. Basketball has taught me a lot of things: the importance of exercise, teamwork, discipline, time management, and respect. My love for basketball came from my parents, who introduced the game to me in first grade. They spent many hours driving me to and from practice, games, and camps, and they even came to most of my college games. Their love and support made it easy for me to succeed in basketball. The last person I would like to thank is my husband of almost 15 years, Mike, who also played at the Mount, for always being there for me. Being able to raise our two boys together and share our love for basketball is awesome. I want them to know that hard work and dedication pays off. Getting to meet my husband, getting a great education, and now being induced into the Hall of Fame are all reasons I need to thank Mount St. Mary's, and thank you for this honor.
All right, thanks. First, congrats to all the inductees. I'm actually here long enough to have seen all of you play, except Coach Lou, and none of us were here to see Coach Lou play. I really said I wasn't going to bust your chops when I was up here, but I had to give you one. This is really a nice honor for me and for the baseball program to have Matt and Coach Lou going in together. Really two of the most influential people for me in my career, as I continue to coach this sport. And not to mention my two partners for hot dog eating down at Newburgh Lunch. They sometimes have to shut the place down for us when we get in there. But I'm really grateful for the opportunity here to introduce such a great person, someone who has influenced my life, my career in such a positive way. Dibble, Matt Dubinsky, AKA Dibble. One of my first meetings with Matt, I was a freshman baseball player, and Matt was a junior. I was this self-proclaimed big star coming out of high school, and pitcher, played a position. Well, I stepped in the batter's box against Matt and very quickly learned that I was just going to be a pitcher here at the college level. He threw me a curveball that I still remember, and my knees are still shaking about. I played with Matt for 2 years, where I learned so much about the player and the person that is Dibble. He took the ball against every top opponent. Some of us got babied into it. Some of us got to throw games against some weaker opponents. Now Matt took the ball every day against the best competition, never had a start off. So he's got some pretty fabulous numbers, especially pitching-wise, but they're not as good as they should be. Really just an unbelievable pitcher. True captain. How he carried himself on and off the field. We should all be lucky enough to play for a captain and a leader like Matt. Some of us were only pitchers, as I explained. Matt, on his days off, he didn't really get days off. He was a hitter, he was a fielder, and again, just successful at everything he did on the baseball field. Assistant coach Dibble. Once Matt graduated, came back, coached for 2 years, was really a huge influence on my career as I started to get to my junior and senior year. Matt was the calming voice when things got crazy. Matt was the baseball encyclopedia when that was needed. And most importantly, he was the realist when you kind of needed that kick in the butt. Head coach Dibble. Matt was the person who gave me the first opportunity to coach college baseball. My time as an assistant was so valuable to me, both baseball-wise and as a person. I learned how to run a program. I learned about recruiting. I learned about field management, game management, and every other aspect about running a baseball program. We coaches get to influence a lot of people. Coach Lou talked about it. We get to influence a lot of people, both on and off the field. And any one of his players, myself included, is lucky enough to have him as a coach. Most importantly, Dibble the man, Dibble the father. I've learned much about baseball from this guy, but way more about being a good person and a father. All right, Pags, I'm actually going to read this because these were the instructions given to us. I'll find it. Matt Dubinsky made some of the largest contributions to Mount Baseball in program's history. He was a 3-time New York All-Region team member, a 4-time All-Skyline and All-Knickerbocker Conference team member as a pitcher and designated hitter. One of our 4 players to be named All-Conference for both pitching and hitting, the Skyline Pitcher of the Year in '96 and '97, and the starting pitcher for 2 conference championships. Dubinsky also served as the Knights head coach for 8 seasons and an assistant for 4. He was the 5th youngest coach in the country at 27 years old when he took over in '02. In this time, he won a Skyline and Knickerbocker Conference championships, coached a nationally ranked team, made an NCAA Division III tournament appearance in '03, and he was named Skyline Conference Coach of the Year and NCAA Division III New York Region Coach of the Year. He still holds the program record with 32 wins in a season. He coached a D3 All-American, 13 ABC New York Region selections, 3 Conference Players of the Years, 1 Conference Pitcher of the Year, 1 Conference Rookie of the Year, 16 First Team All-Conference selections, 20 Second Team, and 6 ECA Metro Region All-Star selections. Dubinsky currently serves as a student recruiter for the Mount St. Mary College admissions and also lends a hand in various athletic events. Matt has 2 beautiful daughters, Sam and Alex. One of his proudest moments as a student athlete here was starting the 1994 Knickerbocker Conference Championship game at Shea as a freshman and throwing 5-hit shutout to beat John Jay College 1-0. All right, without further ado, here's my teammate, my captain, my coach, and most importantly, my good friend, Matt Dubinsky.
Wow, thank you, Steve. I was kidding Jamie Bruzi. We had talked a couple times leading up to today, and I kidded her about had she prepared her speech. And I truthfully did not prepare one. Not because I didn't know what to say, it's because I always feel like it rolls better when I'm not looking at something. First thing I want to do is congratulate my fellow honorees today. I feel as though I've been with you throughout some of your playing careers. Craig and Tom was at the scorer's table doing the clock for all your games back when I was just with the financial aid. I can't even think of what it is now. Work study, thank you, Sas. Work study, just making a few extra dollars, but that's still something that I do 20 years later now for all the current sports teams. Jamie, watching you as well in that capacity. Murph, college roommate. I won't be long. I know you want to watch UConn, so I won't be too long. Melissa and your husband, Jay, who played for me. Joe Bell, great to see you, buddy. I feel as though I have had 2 careers here at the Mount. Of course, my playing career and then my coaching career. They were some of the most memorable experiences of my life. Honestly, I could go back and we could be here all day and all night talking about things that were so influential, so positive of an experience that it's hard to believe that I'm here today in this capacity. I came to the Mount to look at the school with one of my lifelong friends, Mike Burke, who had said, hey, I'm going to come to the Mount. Why don't you take a look at them? The coaches want to talk to you. At that time, I really didn't know what I wanted to do as far as school. He says, it's just over the bridge. All right, fine. So had a lunch meeting with Tom McTammany and Mike McGuire. at the Lexus Diner. That was about an hour-long lunch meeting. Walked out. My mom said, "What do you think?" I said, "I have no idea what we just witnessed." And if anybody knows Tom and Mike McGuire, you know where I'm coming from. Tom started in with his farm animals, and you know, once he gets going, it's difficult to stop him. And here I am, I'm 17 years old, and I'm listening to him talk about goats and sheep, and I'm like, okay. And then Mike McGuire, with his legal background, was speaking of all law-related things. And I said, what does this have to do with the Mount, and what does it have to do with baseball? So we came for a tour, and you know, the Mount felt very comfortable to me. The other schools that I looked at did not fit for what I was looking for. And I said, you know what? I said, this is the place I'm going to go. I'm going to have the ability to stay close to home. My family is really extremely important to me, and my parents would have the ability to watch me play on a daily basis whenever. Not long after that, I had met another now lifelong friend, Ray Castellani, who was a current member of the team and program at that time. And he said, hey, I hear you're coming in. You're going to be a big, you know, influence on the team and in the school. He said, so do you like girls? I said, yeah. He said, you're coming to the right place. So, Ray, thank you for your words of wisdom. That first year that I was here, it didn't actually go as well as I had hoped. I had some academic difficulties, and I learned quickly that being a student athlete was more than just hitting the weight room and coming to practice. And it was actually probably the best thing that ever happened to me at that time to not be able to play my first year, actually be academically ineligible. It's something that I talked about with all of my players as a positive learning experience, not necessarily as a negative. It was the worst thing that ever happened to me at the time, but the best thing that happened to me long term. And it made me come back the year after and feel as though that I had something to prove, not only to my teammates, my family, coaches, but just to say, hey, you didn't make a mistake by you know, putting your faith in me. And I think that started a run of our baseball program on, I think it was about a 10-year run of 20 or more wins. That year was '94, and actually in a couple of weeks, it'll be the 20-year anniversary of the Shea game, the 1-0 Shea game, where we beat John Jay College. I got the ball in that game. We still have video of that. Pags is yelling at me that I got to get it off of a VCR tape and put it on a DVD because it's going to go bad. But there's nothing better than rewinding and going that way. Maybe I'll talk to Kat about that, getting it on video of the other way. We went to the ECACs that year. We did not win, but that was such a huge team building that we knew that we were taking the next step. And then, like I said, 10 years later, we were 20 or more wins, moving along, and it was just such a huge, you know, can't explain it. Just really can't explain it. You know, when I was graduating and moving on to the coaching ranks, Coach Lou and Tom McTammany at the time said, you know, are you thinking about joining the staff? I had taken a position in the Office of Admissions, and I was like, yeah, I think I will. It'd be a great way to continue baseball, not know what would happen from here, and move on from there. And ultimately, I learned the most about being a total team-oriented person, not from my playing career, but from my coaching career, because the dedication that the coaches have to put in is so much more than what you can expect from players all the time. Because you have to not only monitor them academically, you have to monitor them obviously on the field, you have to monitor them socially, you have to be their guidance counselor sometimes, they need life relationship advice, and in a lot of cases, you're on call 24/7. And at the time, I had just graduated, so I was 22 years old, and I was dealing with, you know, Tom and Coach Lou, and sometimes those were trying times as well. Kind of felt like I was in the middle of an odd couple. And the team would come to me for a lot of things, and I tried to play peacemaker in a lot of cases. When Coach Lou took over the team, and he had said to me, he said, you know, I'm not going to do this forever. I'm only going to do this for a couple years. I'm not sure how many exactly, but I do think that, you know, I'd like you to consider taking this over when I'm done. And I said, well, you know, I guess we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And I think that I can probably say that the most influential person, to echo what Pags had said, in both my baseball and my personal life, is Lou Arana. I do have to say, and if Sam and Alex can bring me, there was in the profile that was read about Coach Lou, there seemed to be left out a decade of time as far as where his whereabouts were. And I think that was the 60s, as evidenced by this photo right here. In actuality, that picture was taken in Florida. We had gone to the Ron John surf shop, and he had put on a wig, and I had taken that picture, and I've kept it ever since then, because I knew at some point I was going to use it as ammunition. Because, and the reason why is because you have no idea what I put up with when we were in Florida. I was his roommate. Yes. 60-year-old man plus 22, 23-year-old. Man from the military, so his hours were quite a bit different than what mine were. Come 8 and 9 o'clock at night, he was ready to call it quits. Shut things down, and I said, well, who's going to do bed checks? Who's going to watch the players? I said, they're not going to bed right now. You got it. Okay. He'd shut down things. I would make sure things were as sane as possible with, 30 players and in the middle of Cocoa Beach, Florida. But the real issue came up the next morning because he went to bed at 8, 9 o'clock at night. He was up at 5 o'clock in the morning because I was up till 1 o'clock making sure there was peace out there. He'd come, and it was interesting the way he did these things. He would come, he would turn the TV on. Start low, then he would turn it higher. Oh, the volume works. Go to the bathroom, flick the lights a few times. Oh, these are working okay. God forbid we had a fan in the room, the fan in the bathroom, because that would be flicked a few times as well. The shades, open, close, open, close, open, close. Mind you, while all this is going on, I put the pillow over my head. I'm exhausted still because I was doing the monitoring at night. He would go to get breakfast. He so kindly would think of me and bring me an orange. Not the pancakes or the waffles or things that were offered in, the continental breakfast, but an orange. And then he would start with, I would still be in bed, start with hammering me. What's with the young kids these days? You're gonna sleep your life away. Get up. He always accused me of snoring, which it's not possible. I was hit with pillows, thrown across the room. Stop, you're snoring. Meanwhile, it was he who woke himself up with a snore, not me waking him up. And then, of course, his alarm clock, which wasn't just the lights, it wasn't just the flicking of an opening of the doors and opening of the shades. It was over my head. Wake up. So, needless to say, those 4 or 5 years that we were in Florida together were definite learning experiences on discipline and things along those lines. And Coach Lou, I thank you for opening my eyes. But I can honestly tell you that probably one of the most important scenarios that Coach Lou thrust upon me was actually as a player. We had played at Kings Point, who was a weaker team than us. And I was in the lineup as a hitter that day, not as a pitcher. And we were hammering them pretty good in the first game. I had an offer, frustrated. Everyone else hits and runs, and everyone's doing everything. I'm popping up. I got called out on a bad call, strike 3, because the umpire wanted to open up the zone. And I'm like, what's going on here? I can't get a hit. Everyone's padding their batting average, and I can't do anything. Game 2, back in the lineup. We start hammering them again. And now I'm fed up. I'm 0 for 3. I'm 0 for 7 on a day. I have nothing but zeros. Everyone else they're running all over the place, stolen bases and things along those lines. I make my last out of the game. I come back into the dugout, and I've had enough. I can't take it anymore. And for those that have played for Coach Lou, you know his deal with the med kits had to be closed. If you used it, you better have closed it. Well, this med kit happened to be right in my sights, and I kicked it. Imagine putting like an M80 in a med kit. Well, it exploded. I did not realize it was not closed, so everything went flying everywhere. And I said, oh boy, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble for two reasons. One, because I kicked it, and two, I'm gonna get caught now because everything is everywhere. I could have probably got away with it if I just kicked it and it just toppled over a little bit. He saw me, came over, and instead of chewing me a new one, he calmly said, that's it for today. We're taking you out of the lineup. Clean that all up, and we'll talk when you're done. So I'm steaming. Now I'm embarrassed because I got caught with all this. So I pick it all up. I'm kind of ready to pout and sulk a little bit. And he comes over and he sits next to me, and he says, is that the way a captain is supposed to act? And I said, no, it's not. He goes, then you need to start acting like one. You may be having a bad day, but your actions reflect on everyone else. And that struck me and hit me to the core because of his principles. He didn't lay into me, which he easily could have. And that would have been the prime opportunity for anyone to do that because we were beating an inferior opponent. And that's the best time to rail on players, is to get them when you're in a good position. Not when they're down necessarily individually, but from the team perspective. And so, Coach Lou, I can tell you honestly that I still think about that moment to this day. You may not remember it. I mean, you go way back to, you know, the Babe and Ty Cobb and all that. So I remember it right now. But from that, I truly do thank you for all your influences on the field, but more so off the field. I hope that carried over to my players, a couple of them that are here, Tack and Joe Bell. Here's a little known fact. There is one player in this room that actually has a better winning percentage on the mound. It's not Ray. It's not Steve. It's actually Tom Fuller. Tom Fuller was 1-0 in his baseball career. It's not anywhere else in here. But Tom joined our team I don't know, for sophomore year. We went up to Southern Vermont, and Tom shut him down. The funny part about all that is between innings, we were running behind the dugout to make sure that he wasn't going to balk every time a runner got on base. So we were working on his stretch position, his set position. So overall, but I know I've rambled on a little bit here. I do want to thank a few people. I want to thank Father Kevin. Happy 21st birthday, Father. I'd like to thank the administrative council that are here today, faculty members, the coaches of the current Mount St. Mary Athletic Department. I know you really love getting emails from me all the time. It's a pleasure to work with you on a daily basis. I really do enjoy. I know how hard you do work at it. I've been in your shoes, and it's truly a pleasure to work with you currently. And of course, now I have to thank my family because I wouldn't be here without them. Jamie had said it very eloquently. She was given an opportunity to come to the Mount, and so was I. I'd like to to highlight my sisters that are here. I'm the oldest of four, the big brother, so to speak. My three younger sisters, my youngest sister, Sarah, is, I'm so proud of her. She finished first in her class at Pace University in nursing a number of years ago. She's currently an emergency room nurse in the Bronx, which is not an easy place to work, but she was a student athlete in college. I'm extremely proud of her. I know how much time and effort she put into her studies when she was in school, and the balance that she did. She's the most self-motivated person I've ever met, and you know, the funny thing is we were just talking about this as we came to school today, being that she's the youngest of all of us. When we found out that, and there's about a 12-year gap between us, when my oldest sister and I found out that we were having another child, or we weren't having a child, but my mom was. We all said, oh no, you know. I actually said, when I found out it was a girl, I said, can we trade him in for a boy? But Sarah, truly, you know, proud of what you've accomplished so far. My middle sister, Rebecca, You know, this week is a special week, not because it's the opening of professional baseball, not because it's the NCAA Final Four. Obviously, today is a huge honor, but actually, she's 2 years cancer-free today. I knew this was going to happen. She's now actually the proud mother of twin girls that are 2 months old. So she's overcome a lot. But I think she also owes me an apology, because when she and Sarah were younger, my high school coach had told me to go to a tryout with her college coach, a showcase down in Westchester County at a public recreational park. As I'm about to go out to go on the mound and throw for these coaches and scouts, I throw my first couple pitches, and then they all take off and run away. What happened was my sister Rebecca got her head stuck in a bike rack. So I didn't go Division I or get drafted because of her. Thank you. Truly the toughest person I've ever met. I wish I had the heart and strength that you have, and I'm truly blessed to be your older brother. My oldest sister, Kristen, is 18 months younger than me, so she had to deal with me a lot more than Rebecca and Sarah did. And being the good older brother that I am, I taught her everything. She played baseball actually until she was 13. And we actually played on separate teams when we were in Little League and in Junior League. And actually our two teams met in the championship game. And here comes Kristen to face big bad Matt, you know, who you know, can take care of everybody at our small little town league. And what does Matt do when he's got his sister up at bat? Like any good older brother would do, I drilled her. Truthfully, the reason why I drilled her is I knew I couldn't get her out. She always was the better athlete. She had the better arm. She was faster. She had more power. She hit more home runs in her freshman year of college than I hit in my whole entire college career. She went to Rider University on a softball scholarship. But one thing that my three sisters do not have, they got the athletic ability, they got the brains, I got the looks. Don't laugh, don't laugh. So, I can go on and on and on about a lot of things. To my parents, being a parent myself now, I realize the commitment that you made to bring me to soccer and basketball, baseball, travel. I now know why you were so excited when I got my license so I could drive myself. But I do have to say, you know, in all truth and honesty, I just want to thank you for believing in me when maybe I didn't believe in myself. And I think that as parents, I think that's, you know, what we all try to relay to our sons and daughters. I hope that I've made you proud overall, and I wouldn't be here without you. Last but not least, probably to the stars of the Mount St. Mary campus, probably have more notoriety than I do, and that would be to my daughters, Alex and Sam, the Diblets. You have big shoes to fill. So I love you very much. There's not a day that goes by that I don't look forward to what the next step in our travels will be. To all of you, thank you so much for being here, and God bless you all.
Good evening. I definitely had the honor to be here around the same time as everybody, all the honorees. And it was a pleasure seeing all you guys playing. So you guys did a great job, and thank you for making my 4 years here exciting, you know, in sports. When Tom asked me to be here as his guest, I said, sure, no problem. I thought I'd sit in the back, probably drink by now, right? Laying low in the back. And then I walked in, and Coach Toomey throws me in the deep end. He's like, here. And, you're gonna do Tom's speech. I'm like, oh, wait, what? So I'm here. Tom and I came in together. We were roommates for 4 years. We came in 93, I think it was. And it was interesting to see a person just like me. So Tom and I were always together. Either we were always goofing on somebody or whatever, but Tom gets it from his mom and his stepdad. They're the same way. And the way Tom was then, Tom is the same way now. We always clown around, and one thing I can say about Tom, he didn't let success get to him. The first 2 years were a little rough, and then as things started picking up, Tom was the same person. We would always mess around with Ray, right, Ray? Watching Yankee games, Tom was the same person. Either putting stuff in people's drinks. I know, Pat, I know you taught him that, Pat. I know that. I know you taught him that. But he was well-grounded, and he carried that through 4 years. Our first 2 years was a little rough. The team wasn't all that good. And then I would honestly say that Tom's career turned around when Coach Davis and Coach Bosch came. Definitely, without a doubt. Night and day. Tom, at that point, he just got a lot better. And that's the reason why he's here. So I want to thank Mrs. Davis that was here, definitely Coach Davis and Coach Bosch for the part they played in Tom's career. So Coach, I really don't have anything written down, but Mike, I can't flow like you. You probably had some time to say what you did, but I'm gonna read Tom's bio here. Tom Fuller was part of the first Skyline Championship in the Mount men's basketball program history. The 1996-97 Knights won 18 games, a record at the time, en route to a Skyline co-championship. He averaged 14 points per game over his 4-year career, including 18.1 points per game in 1995-96 and 17.3 points per game in 96-97. He finished his career with 1,395 points, which was the program record at the time, and currently stands as the 4th highest total in program history. He was an All-Skyline second teamer in 1996. He earned first-team All-Skyline honors in 1997, as well as NCAA Division III Metropolitan Region All-Star recognition. Fuller also served as an assistant coach with the Mount women's basketball team for 3 years, from 2003 to 2006. He helped guide the team to 3 Skyline championships, multiple NCAA tournament appearances, and a ranking of number 23 in the nation at one point. Fuller currently works for a healthcare company named Trio Solutions as a client service representative. He is married to his wife, Carla Fuller, and they have a 2-year-old son named Elijah Thomas Fuller. One of his proudest and most memorable moments was scoring his 1,000 career points on a dunk against the New Jersey Institute of Technology, which we still laugh about that right now, because that was a memorable moment. That was Tom's only dunk, I think, ever in a game. So we still bring that up. And it's an honor and a pleasure to introduce Tom Fuller to the Mount St. Mary Hall of Fame.
Hold on. Well, first off, I want to say thank you, God, for this great day. Thank you for all the honorees and faculty, staff, families. Thank you to the Mount Committee for even thinking of me. I hear my stats. Are those the most moving stats? No. But I like to think I'm probably up here because I was just a model student. I also want to thank, my grandmother who's, looking down on this day. We moved up here. We moved to Middletown from New York City. A lot of people don't know, had I stayed in the city, I would have attended Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx. So we moved up here, and there was plenty of fights of, I don't want to go to Burke Catholic, I want to go to Middletown High, had a lot of friends, but I have to thank my grandmother, my parents, my uncles here, my two cousins, Yvette, Amber. You guys are the foundation for why I'm here today. This was etched in God's way from the time I was born, so this was meant to be. And like I said, I attended Burke Catholic, and then Coach Notting came into my life. Most people who attend Burke Catholic, you're probably known from the parochial schools, or we know who's coming in. But here I go, I show up at the doorsteps of Johannesburg Catholic in Goshen, New York. And a lot of people don't know, I never touched the basketball until I arrived at Johannesburg Catholic. I know I didn't show it in Southern Vermont, but I used to be a good baseball player in the Bronx. But anyway, I signed up to try out for freshmen, and I think Coach Notting said, no, JV's at 4:30. We'll see you then. So, needless to say, like I said, he had no clue. I never touched the basketball, probably just saw, a decent-sized kid. Said, we're going to work with you. And Coach Notting, I thank you. Sending me to basketball camps, working with me, and just staying with me, and also, Coach Bach, who's not here today as well. I'm going technology on us. I'm using my phone. Like Matt, I didn't have a speech prepared, and I was just sitting with my son this morning, and I just started typing away, just trying to have something here. Then we transitioned to my time here at the Mount. I came into the Mount through a program called the HEOP, and I stand here proud of that program. That program allowed me to be here. I didn't have all the finances in the world. I didn't come from the family that, the big house on the hill. It was just my grandmother's hard work and that program, through the grace of God. And I walked on this campus and met Mr. Torrance Harvey. I was told I had to be at the school between 10 and 5 o'clock. I think I showed up at Guzman Hall 4:59. Mind you, I graduated from high school, and I had to be here, I think, 2 days later. There goes my summer, 8-week summer program. But Torrance, I thank you for your guidance, because that was the foundation to my purpose for being here, which was for my degree. You started that. Excuse me. And of course, I have to thank, Chuck Cordero. He said we're roommates over 4 years. I think that's very rare in college, mostly from the female side. But we would see people changing roommates like socks. But we maintained a bond that, we're two grown men, and my wife will attest. I think we text each other like two little schoolgirls, just about nonsense, and Chuck was a person, and did, numbers and stats on his end. Did that light up the box score at the Mount? No. But Chuck, I think you noticed, you lit up my heart, and I thank you. He was just there for me. He was, we had the same major. He's the reason I was able to succeed in this building, because he helped me succeed in that building over there. So, and of course, to my teammates and to Mrs. Davis, may Coach rest in peace. Thank you. I'm sorry, guys. If anybody didn't know Coach Davis, he a heart of gold. the reason I can stand here and honor my family, my friends, is because of that man. And Mrs. Davis, thank you for filling my belly. You know, but this is a happy moment. You know, I have to thank Coach Rigger, who recruited me, Coach Eddie Feller, and even Mr. John Wright. You know, those are the gentlemen who even allowed me to walk, you know, onto this campus. To Coach Bosch, Duke Patton, and Sal Minio. Thank you all. I have to thank my wife and my family. You know, my wife still allows me to go out maybe once or twice a week to think I can still play this game. I'm just told, you know, when you get home, don't wake me up. Or, you know, so thank you. And again, to my parents, you know, they're kind of like my silent partners. They pray every day for my life, my success, and I'm glad I'm able to share this moment with them every step of the way. You know, from graduating high school, graduating college, playing sports, you know, my marriage, the birth of my first child. I thank you guys. And I also thank, you know, my cousins and my uncle who are here as well. And once again, I wouldn't be here without my teammates. I see Matt Murphy here, Mike Murphy, and it's because of you guys I'm standing here. So once again, to my teammates, this is us being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm just representing us, but this is us, you know. So thank you all, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm a little emotional after that. As Tom said, I'm Carol Davis, and Dwayne, my husband, was these guys' coach. He was here for 16 years, loved every minute, but it's a particular honor for me to do this type of a thing for what we used to call our boys. Of course, now they're all grown men with their own families, which is wonderful to see. And obviously I didn't get to play with any of them. So I had to have a role because it was a family thing, right? I got to cook. And let me tell you, those boys could eat. It's particularly interesting to me that Craig chose me to introduce him. When Craig first came here, he was like pretty much any other kid and guys who come to play ball any place, really. Well, you know, a little nervous. Am I going to make the team? If I make the team, am I going to sit on the bench? What if Coach doesn't like me? You needn't have worried, Craig. Craig knew the minute as soon as Coach laid eyes on you on this floor, he knew what he had. He knew he had a player. And he usually, you know, let the players know how much he liked them by pushing them as hard as he could, because he wanted the best out of them. And I'll bet you guys really miss running those baselines, don't you? I used to hear a lot of complaints about that. I don't understand why. Sometimes they thought he did it just for fun, and I think they were right. But there were no excuses for anybody who played on the team. You either worked hard or you didn't play. There's no question about it. And you better leave your ego at home, because he always said there's no I in team. It's a team effort. We play together. And Craig learned pretty early that there was one way to play, and that was the way Coach wanted, and he did it well. Craig went from learning how to be a floor leader during games, and his confidence grew really in all the aspects of his life. He understood what Coach meant when he preached to the team to set a personal goal, and this is a true thing, you guys probably heard it more than I've ever heard it, then make a plan to get to it. expect to work hard to get there, but have a direction in your life. Craig did that. He did that by becoming one of the finest ball players that Coach Davis ever handled, and that's a true statement. Craig has, right from the beginning, even as a young kid like that, skinny kid, he had a core, solid core of him. He was willing to learn, and that's big. Any coach will tell you that. Any kid that comes and knows it all, forget it. They don't know anything. But on top of that, Coach Davis always felt a lot of responsibility that these young men were being put in his care, so to speak. It's the care of the school, but he took it personally. And he wanted them to be the best person that they could ever be as well. I know if he was here now, he would probably say that Craig Newton was a success as a basketball player, but more so as a person who has grown into a man his family is really proud of, and justifiably so. He achieved his first and most important goal when he won Suzanne. And now they are the proud parents of two beautiful children. You know, success in life is not how wealthy you become, or whether you have more toys than somebody else. Real success in life is the closeness and love of your spouse and the children and the lives you build together. That is the true richness we all aspire to. And from where I stand, I believe Craig and Suzanne have all the richness life has to offer. And as I mentioned as I began this, it was a family project. It wasn't just Dwayne coming here to coach. Our children came to all the games, and we really did cook. We cooked for the players, their families that came to the games, whoever else wandered in. Sometimes it was the other team, and we'd let them eat if we beat them, you know. But our oldest daughter, Karen, is the wordsmith of the family. And when my husband passed away in November, there was a lot of press, good press, nice things were said about him. But they called and asked if the family would make a statement to be printed. And this exemplifies, my daughter wrote this, and this exemplifies how we felt about all of these young men that we were privileged to work with for such a long time, to watch them come in as freshmen and kids. And by the time they left, they were young men. And it's an amazing process to watch, but this is exemplifies how we felt about it. We weren't just a family of 6, as we welcomed all of those who played for our dad as family. We have had hundreds and hundreds of brothers, spanning 50 years. Our parents built our family based on loyalty, trust, and love. We always accepted each one of the players without condition. In the final weeks of our father's life, legions of brothers paid us back in spades, in unprecedented numbers, coming to visit their coach at the hospital. The outpouring of support buoyed our dad's spirit in his final weeks and brought a much-needed smile to our mother's face. We could not be more grateful to each and every one of them. And that's how we felt and still feel about all of these guys. Now I'm supposed to read all these stats to you. Craig Newton owns area assist record on the Mounts men basketball record list. Yay, Craig. He set the single game assist record of 14 twice in the 96-97 season. First against Medgar Evers on January 21st, 1997, and again on February 20th, 1997 against Centenary. That same season, he set the single season assist record with 216 and the single assist per game record with an average of 8.0. His 8 assists per game ranked 4th in the nation in 96-97. He finished his career with 499 assists, the most in program history. He, too, was a member of the 96-97 Skyline Conference champion Knights. He ranks 8th on the all-time scoring list with 1,292 career points. He was also a prolific defender on the ball and stands second all-time in program history with 252 steals. And this little thing here, it says he was a prolific defender. That's a huge glossing over of what a point guard does. If you haven't played basketball, it's more than running up and down the floor. The point guard not only gets to bring the ball down, he's running and he's dribbling at the same time. And at the same time, he's warding off some guy who's just reaching, trying to grab the ball away from him. And at the same time, he's looking to see if everybody's where they're supposed to be on the floor. And if they aren't, he's trying to tell them to go where they're supposed to be. You've got to be able to think, right? Yeah. So, you know, all these other stats are lovely, but I don't remember you ever losing the ball. And I do remember that on the rare occasion that it might have happened, he would be personally indignant and embarrassed because that was his job. Craig currently works as an accountant executive with UPS, working out of the Kingston, New York area. He's married to his wife, Suzanne, and they have a daughter, Ciara, and a son, Trey. One of his proudest moments as Knight was sinking an overtime buzzer beater on the Knights' home court to beat New Jersey Institute of Technology. Remember that one? Oh, I'll never forget that. Which at the time was ranked number 5 in the nation in Division III basketball. It's a great privilege to introduce Craig Newton.
First, let me say thank you to Ms. Davis. I appreciate you representing on my behalf. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot for doing that. It meant a lot to me. I have a couple bullet points that I wrote down. So before I get to those, I'm going to go off track a bit. I know Tom had mentioned before he gave Chuck a little bit of credit for being a great roommate. This guy didn't say a thing about me, and I'm the one who threw him the ball. You won't get it again. You won't get it again. Second, I'd like to honor the other honorees. It's an honor to be here standing in front of you guys today and be honored with you. What a great group of athletes as well as a great group of people. So I thank you for inducting me as well. I'd like to thank Mount St. Mary's. I'd also like to thank the athletic department, the committee, and all those who were involved in the selection process of bringing us in today. You know, as a high school athlete, we all probably had aspirations of going to a big university and playing at the highest level. My decision to come to Mount St. Mary has honestly been one of the most rewarding decisions I've ever made. Academically, socially, and athletically. Academically, this is the Mount St. Mary provides a great environment to learn and further your education. Socially, I've met some great people and we'll have some lifelong friends. Tom Fuller, you see I named you first. Chuck Cordero, Mike Murphy, Matt Murphy, okay? Lastly, academically, I had the honor to represent the school, play for the great Coach Davis, as well as to play on some really good teams. With that being said, I would also like to thank all of my teammates through the 4 years that I've been here. Without them, I wouldn't have been able to accept this award today. They made me look good, so thank you for making this possible. Last, I'd like to thank my parents. They made this all possible. They challenged me on life lessons, as well as on the basketball court. Although tough at times, they always provided the necessary tools for me to succeed. So I thank you for that. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you for the other guests that I had here on behalf today.
All right, that concludes our presentation. Remember about the pictures, and if all the athletes and the honorees can come up here first, we'll take a group shot, and then we'll go into the family pictures. Nihal will take as many as you want. We have food and drink over there for the rest of the night. Thanks very much for coming.